Doctors now say loneliness is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Welcome back to Pocket Daily English. Real stories, simple English. So you're learning while you listen. Right now, in the most connected moment in human history, smartphones, in every pocket. Video calls across continents, thousands of friends online. Something strange is happening. More people report feeling lonely than at almost any point we've measured. Not isolated on a mountain somewhere. Lonely in crowded cities. Lonely in group chats. Lonely surrounded by co-workers, neighbors, even family. In 2023, the US Surgeon General didn't call this a mood. He called it an epidemic and said its health risk was comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So what actually happened? And more importantly, what changed? Here's the strange part. This isn't a story about people being physically alone more. In many ways, we interact with more people more often than any generation before us. We text constantly. We scroll through hundreds of updates a day. We're technically in contact with more humans than our grandparents ever were. And yet, surveys keep finding the same thing. People report having fewer close friends. Fewer people to call in a crisis. Fewer people who really know them. More contact, less connection. That gap has a name now. Researchers call it the connection paradox. To understand why that gap matters so much, you have to go back further than smartphones, back to how humans actually evolved. For most of human history, we lived in small tribal groups. Usually no more than about 150 people, a number anthropologists now call Dunbar's number. Survival depended on those close bonds, shared food, shared protection, shared childcare. Your nervous system evolved to treat social disconnection the same way it treats hunger or physical danger, as a threat. Loneliness isn't a modern weakness. It's an ancient alarm system built to keep you inside the group. Which is exactly why loneliness doesn't just feel bad emotionally, it acts on the body like a real, physical threat. Chronic loneliness has been linked to higher rates of heart disease, weakened immune function, and even faster cognitive decline. Researchers studying decades of health data found that strong social connection predicts a longer life about as reliably as not smoking does. Your brain isn't being dramatic when isolation feels painful. It's running code that's hundreds of thousands of years old, and that code was never built for a world like this one. Here's the part that surprises most people. Loneliness isn't mainly an old age problem. Multiple recent surveys have found that young adults, people in their late teens and 20s, report higher rates of loneliness than people in their 60s and 70s. That flips the stereotype most of us grew up with of the lonely elderly widow. Older adults, it turns out, are often better at maintaining a small number of deep, long-term relationships. Younger adults are living through the biggest disruption to how humans build relationships in centuries, and it's hitting them first. Loneliness also does something sneaky. It changes how your brain reads other people. Researchers studying isolated individuals found their brains become hypervigilant to social threat, more likely to interpret a neutral face as unfriendly, more likely to expect rejection before it happens. So, a lonely person often, without realizing it, becomes slightly more guarded, slightly harder to approach, which makes new connection even less likely. It's not a flaw in character. It's a feedback loop, and once it starts, it tends to feed itself. So what actually broke? Start with close friendships. Long-running surveys in the United States have tracked a steady decline in the number of close friends adults say they have. With more people than ever reporting they have no close friends at all. It's not that people stopped liking each other. It's that the conditions that used to build friendship almost automatically, school, shared neighborhoods, long-term co-workers, walking to somewhere instead of driving, have quietly disappeared, especially since the shift toward remote work. Sociologists have a term for the other piece of this: third places. Spaces that aren't home and aren't work, where people just happen to see each other regularly. Cafes, barbershops, community halls, the same bus stop every morning. These low-effort, repeated encounters used to fill most of a person's social life without anyone trying very hard. As cities were redesigned around cars, screens, and convenience, a lot of those third places quietly closed, and nothing fully replaced them. Social media was supposed to fill that gap. In some ways, it does. It keeps you updated, entertained, technically in touch. But researchers studying loneliness increasingly point to a difference between real connection and what they call parasocial connection, the one-sided feeling of closeness you get watching a stranger's life through a screen. You can spend hours a day absorbing other people's lives and still end the day having had zero real conversations. The feed can feel like company. It rarely functions like one. This isn't a niche problem anymore. It's become a policy problem. In 2018, the United Kingdom became the first country in the world to appoint a minister for loneliness. Japan followed in 2021 after suicide rates tied to isolation began rising during the pandemic. In 2023, the World Health Organization launched a global commission on social connection, officially naming loneliness a public health priority worldwide. When governments start creating cabinet positions for a feeling, that's usually a sign the feeling stopped being personal and became structural. In Japan, this pattern has an extreme edge case with its own name, hikikomori. People, often young men, who withdraw almost entirely from society, sometimes staying inside a single room for months or years at a time. Government surveys have estimated well over 1 million people living this way in Japan alone. It's an extreme version of the same mechanism, withdrawal creating more withdrawal. And as remote work and digital life spread globally, researchers are now watching for milder versions of the same pattern showing up far outside Japan. So what actually helps? Counterintuitively, research points to something smaller than you'd expect, not just deep best friend level bonds, but what sociologists call weak ties. Casual acquaintances, the regular barista, a gym classmate, a neighbor you wave to. Studies have found these lighter connections contribute more to daily well-being than people assume, partly because they're low pressure and easy to repeat. You don't need to rebuild your entire social life overnight. You need more small, repeated, low-stakes moments of being seen by another person. None of this means you need a dramatic life overhaul. The research keeps pointing to something almost boringly simple. Consistency beats intensity. Saying hello to the same person at the same place every week does more for long-term well-being than one big, exhausting effort to make new friends. Connection, it turns out, isn't really built in grand gestures. It's built in small, repeated, low-pressure moments, the kind that are easy to skip and easy to restart. So loneliness isn't a personal failure, and it isn't really about how many friends you have on paper. It's an ancient survival signal, going off in a world that quietly removed most of the places it used to be satisfied. The fix probably isn't one dramatic change. It's smaller and more repeatable than that. The same coffee shop, the same walk, the same weak tie, showing up again and again. If this helped you understand something new about how people actually connect, subscribe. New stories like this drop every week.